All right, my babies. Yalla, let's do this. Decision analysis. Uh, like previously, we did everything data mining, data dictionaries, data flow diagrams, and data modeling. So right now, decision analysis, which is practically just how do you analyze for, I don't know. Decision analysis formally assesses a problem and possible decisions in order to determine the value of alternate outcomes under conditions of uncertainty. Assesses a problem and the possible decisions to take in order to determine the value of alternate outcomes under conditions of uncertainty. So you're analyzing the decisions you can take. Notice I'm saying take, not make. And that's something for me specifically. At one point, I realized that we have control over the choice we make, but not the decision. And why? It's because the decision is given to us by the environment that we're solving the problem in. It's not something we come up with. It's something we realize. It's a path that we take. It's the choice of moving in a certain direction that opens up the decisions that we can take regarding the problem. But often the problems come with their solutions directly, and the reason they're a problem is because something that wasn't done or done improperly or something like that, right? Like, that's how you take a decision. You kind of like assess what's going on, how it got there. So you don't make a decision because making a decision means you're imposing a decision onto the environment, and most of the time it would not work. So that's my reasoning behind using the word take a decision, not make a decision. And so here, the smallest thing is basically like, when it comes to description, decision analysis examines the models and the possible consequences of different decisions about a given problem. Decision is the act of choosing a single, notice, it's the act of choosing a single course of action from several uncertain outcomes with different values. Right, so every decision has its own kind of like choices in it, has its own action, has its own road, has its own variables. You get to choose. The outcome value may take different forms depending on the domain, but commonly include financial value, scoring, a relative ranking system on the approach and evaluation criteria used by the business analyst. What they're talking about right now is how much would it cost? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much risk are we taking, or what exactly that we're doing, right? Like we're kind of like trying to measure something out of it. Or relative ranking dependent on the approach and evaluation criteria, because some decisions are faster but require more money. Some decisions are longer but require more team members, right? And some decisions are external, some decisions are internal. Do you have the skills to actually like apply whatever you decide to go with, or do you have to research other software that is done? Who the fuck knows, right? Like there are many things you have to think about. So decisions are often difficult to assess when the problem is poorly defined. Clarity is very important. The action leading to a desired outcome is not fully understood. Again, what are we doing for this problem? Poorly defined problem. We're not really we don't really understand what we have to do or what we're doing, because our location is very important. External factors affecting the decision are not fully understood. As in, how did the decision become something relevant for us to take, right? Why did this problem happen that this is the decision that solves it, not that one, not that one, not that one. And the value of different outcomes is not understood or agreed upon by the various stakeholders and does not allow for direct comparison. This one's very important, does not allow for direct comparison. So the value of different outcomes is not understood. So if we do this, what will happen? If we do this, what will happen? If we do this, what will happen? Most decisions actually, because what they described right now is basically from the core of the problem all the way to the outcome of the actual decision taken. And most people take a decision under the assumption of the outcome. So in these 4 stages, problem, action, external factors affecting the decision, and the value, a lot more people would rather just look, okay, if I do this, what's the outcome? And it's interesting. It's like culturally, for example, when it comes to Americans, all they want to know is what they get out of it, the money they get out of it, right? And the morality and the ethics behind it are kind of iffy. But when it comes to Asians, for example, they think of the partnership more than the result, because they want to see if they can work with you more or not. All these kinds of things are kind of like, they're different, I don't know, different formats of taking a decision or managing to make the choice. Decision analysis helps business analysts evaluate different outcomes, value under conditions. Oh yeah, the reason I was talking about this is because people kind of need to look at all four of them: the problem, the action leading to the desired outcome, and the external factors, and the value of the outcome that we are actually choosing the decision from based on. All of these are valid, and sometimes people kind of like choose one over the other. That's what I was trying to like show us, get out. Like engineers would rather just like focus on the problem and find a solution. Whether it's an irrelevant solution or not, or whether it's a relevant problem to solve, it doesn't matter. They actually kind of like, they like building shit. So a variety of decision analysis approaches are available. The appropriate approach depends on the level of uncertainty, risk, quality of information, and available evaluation criteria. Effective decision analysis requires the understanding of the values, goals, objectives that are relevant to the decision problem. Values at the core, goals are where do we want to go, and the objectives, like what are we doing? It's the same with the mission statement and shit. The nature of the decision that must be made. When they say the nature of the decision that must be made, are they pointing at I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the stakeholders, where they fit. Areas of uncertainty that affect the decision that makes. The nature of the decision, like, is it I don't know, I feel like that's where is it a risky decision to take, or is it a small? I don't know. Anyways, my bad. The areas of uncertainty, the consequences of each potential decision. Decision analysis approaches use the following activities: define problem statement, clearly describe the decision problem to be addressed, identify possible. Wait 1 second. Here we're looking at the analysis approaches. So you define the problem statement, you define the alternatives, and you evaluate the alternatives, and then you choose alternatives to implement, and then you implement, and you implement the choice that you chose. And so I think these are as well like in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think. Okay, so from my perspective, the problem is poorly defined all the way to the value that's granted. It's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's in symmetry and when things come after each other. What is the word that describes? That's my issue. Yes. So I feel these 4 are sequential as well. These I feel like are not really sequential, like here, because they're ... instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But these are kind of like you define a problem, then you define an alternative, the problem statement, that like clearly describe the decision problem to be addressed. Like, this is an issue, right? And then you define alternatives and be like, what are the things that we can do for this not to be an issue, or what is not an issue, right? Because sometimes you go like, oh shit, I fell down, I cut myself. Not cutting myself is a better thing to do, but not falling down resolves this for the future, right? So evaluate alternatives, determine the logical approach to analyze the alternatives, an agreement. Again, here they're saying logical. An agreement of evaluation criteria can also be determined at the beginning of this activity. Some problems might be a lot more qualitative than quantitative. So logical approach might not work because you're probably dealing with people, right? And people are not logical. Choose alternatives, an alternative to implement, the stakeholders responsible for making the decision. Choose which alternative will be implemented based on the decision analysis results. I agree. Implement the chosen alternative, naturally. I'm not gonna like go through the process of choosing something and then doing something else. Though a lot of people end up doing that, by the way. If something's not clear along the way, you'll always hesitate, or you'll always kind of like follow either your gut feeling or your anxiety. There are a number of decision analysis tools available to assist the business, analysts and decision makers in making objective decisions. Some of the tools and techniques are best in deciding between 2 alternatives, while others handle multiple alternatives. Some general decision analysis tools and techniques include pro versus considerations, force field analysis. This seems interesting. Decision tables, decision trees. Decision trees kind of connect, and if we take this decision, this happens, and then we have to take one of them, and so kind of like shows you how each decision can open something different. Decision tables are probably kind of like the matrices, where if we take this decision, we have to let go of this, do this, blah 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 blah. It's just data and like how it kind of connects. Compares analysis. Analytical hierarchy process, as in like, more important, less important. Totally partial or not, I have no idea what that is. Multi-criteria decision analysis, as in like, you kind of put the decision, but kind of like weigh its impact on different parts of the actual, whether it's a product or a structure or an information system, I have no idea, but that's what you do. And computer-based simulations and algorithms, it's small. Yeah, so you kind of create a simulation on a computer and you kind of like throw all the crap that you want at it and see what comes out of it. The general component of decision analysis include, we're at the elements right now. Decision to be made or problem statement, like that's the description. The decision maker, the person responsible for taking the final decision, picking the final decision. Alternative, a possible proposition or course of action. Decision criteria, evaluation criteria used to evaluate the alternatives. So like, I feel this is basically like the components of decision analysis. They're kind of like, the outline of everything they had to do in order to like understand what is the possibility, and then one person kind of like chooses them. Decision matrices, which are basically where information kind of like, right? So alternate 1, alternate 2, alternate 3, what's the alternate here? Tables below provide example of a simple decision matrix and a weighted decision matrix. A simple decision matrix checks whether or not each alternate meets each criterion being evaluated, and then totals the number of criteria matched for each alternate. In this example, on alternate 1 would likely, I think they're splitting the decision with whether it works or not, and if it works here, if it works there, or if it doesn't work, or it works this way or that way, and then what are the criteria that kind of like gets met. And that's how they're weighing the decision, because the criterion 2 basically is met by all 3 of them. But like alternate 2 has more decisions that kind of like kick, right? It's 3, the score is 3 out of 4. So I'll go for alternate 1. And a weighted decision matrix assesses options on each criterion and weighted, like, each alternate, the criterion, for example, is 1 out of 3 versus here is 1 out of 5. And it kind of like adds more weight. Like I'd rather, for example, a customer be happy than make me money. But I'd rather him be happy and make me money, right? So like, that's a problem that you want to resolve, and which decision do you take? Things like that basically build up. The decision tree is a method of assessing a preferred outcome where multiple sources of uncertainty may exist. Decision tree allows for assessment or responses for uncertainty that may be factored across multiple strategies. Decision trees include decision nodes, chance nodes, terminator or end nodes. Like it starts here and ends here, and that's it. There's no loop anymore. The decision is taken, we do something, now another problem shows up, or we just resolve the problem, right? So there's a node where it goes left and right, and there's chance nodes where we don't know what happens if this goes around. Defines uncertain outcomes. And there are trade-offs. If I take this decision, this happens, but I lose this, because if I take this decision, this would have happened, but if I had to take this decision and the scoring system and blah, blah, blah. Trade-offs become relevant whenever a decision problem involves multiple possibly conflicting objectives, because more than one objective is relevant. It is not sufficient or simply to find a maximum value for one variable, such as the financial benefit for the organization. When making trade-offs, effective methods include elimination of dominated alternatives, ranking objectives on a similar scale. A dominated alternative is any option that is clearly inferior to some of other options. Okay. If an option is equal or worse than some other option, when rated against the objectives, the other option can be said to dominate it. In some cases, an option may also be dominated if it only offers very small advantages but has significant disadvantages. I mean, like, yeah, it all depends on what weighing criteria do we have. Like, why are we choosing? What's the criteria we are choosing from? Evaluation. What's the evaluation criteria we're taking a decision from? And ranking objectives on a similar scale. One method is converting rankings to a similar scale is proportional scoring. What? The best outcome is assigned a rating of 100, worst rating of 0. Okay, so basically, what you're doing is you're centralizing the, I don't know, it's like here the way they seem to be doing it is like, everything gets a score out of 100, and like the average of that wins as a decision-making process. So it's not about like having the customer satisfied versus kind of like making money, right? What they do is like, is the customer satisfied from a 0 to 100, let's just say 80, and making money it's a 60, so the average is 70, right? They're kind of like creating a medium point where it's just kind of like, I don't know, a rating system, like literally when you go to school and they go like, you got this out of this. And all other outcomes are given a rating based. I feel like with ranking objectives, what we can do is kind of like add bonus, because these are the unquantitative ones. Because sometimes a decision you take kind of shifts something that you're not really sure that you never knew was there. What I know is the smallest thing, Five Guys, basically what they do is they add, every single time they give you basically the burger, they put it in the plastic, in the bag, and they give you your fries, and anytime, they're always, after putting the fries, they take like a scoop of fries and they just add it there. So cost-wise, it's more, but that's the reason why people love Five Guys and are willing to pay $20 to $25 for a fucking burger. Why? It's because in their eyes, Five Guys is generous, because I ordered a large and they gave me a bit extra fries. So that kind of like shit is small. Clicks more with customers. So like, I guess that's kind of like a bonus, because like you are losing money on the extra fries, but you're kind of like getting, instead of a customer going at a 90%, he's getting a bonus of like 20% of that. And then suddenly you kind of like have a different average, right? Because a bonus of 20%, that means the customer at 90 is 110. Like they don't care about the taste anymore. They just love the fact that they were giving stuff for free. So they jumped from like service to like, I love this place, I like this place, to I love this place, right? That's what I was talking about. Usage and considerations. What are the strengths? It provides business analysts with perspective approach for determining alternative options, especially in complex or uncertain situations. Helps stakeholders who are under pressure to assess options based on criteria, thus reducing decisions based on descriptive information. Exactly, like the more clarity they have, the easier it becomes for you to like, what you're doing is you're feeding yourself information so you can instinctively trust what you're choosing. Right? Normally, overthinking happens when we don't have enough information around us and we try to make something out of the information in our head instead of like adding more information. Requires stakeholders to honestly assess the importance they place on different alternate outcomes in order to help avoid false assumptions. And that's important. And yeah, stochastic biases, right? It kind of takes away from them. And enables business analysts to construct appropriate metrics, because we get to choose what we're measuring and how, and we have to justify them. Or introduce relative rankings for outcome evaluation in order to directly compare both the financial and non-financial outcome evaluation criteria. Qualitative and quantitative, financial and non-financial. Non-financial is a lot more qualitative and financial is more quantitative. What are the limitations? The information to conduct proper decision analysis might not be available in time to make the decision, because sometimes you kind of have to like, yeah, it's like, some decisions have to be taken and they're a lot more time sensitive. Many decisions must be made immediately without the luxury of employing a formal or even an informal decision analysis process. The decision maker must provide input to the process of understanding the assumptions and model limitations, of course. Otherwise, they may perceive the results provided the business analyst sorry guys, they might perceive the results provided by the business analyst as more certain than they are. So that's basically assessing the data, but actually giving the data the chance to be what it wants to be, or what it is actually, not what it wants to be. Instead of what it could be, what it is, like finding the truth in it. Analysis paralysis could occur when too much dependence is placed on the decision analysis and is determining probabilistic values, of course. And some decision analysis models require specialized knowledge, for example, mathematical knowledge and probability, and strong skills with decision analysis tools. You get it? There's a whole lot of factors involved. And all of this is just for what? For decision analysis. And we're just analyzing the decision we could take. Yeah, I fucking love it. Who the fuck wouldn't love this kind of shit? Next video is going to be about decision modeling, where we get to Study how to model a fucking decision. Who the fuck knows how that is done? I love you.